looking to become a Tier 1 operator in the gaming world? Elevate your games with Black Site Studio Terrain.
Hey guys, how's it going? Gaz here from the Sit Red podcast team. Hope you're all well, enjoying your weekend. We're rolling back in today with a bit more for 13 days equals 13 hours. So if you've been following this week, G did some work as along with Marty. They did some lovely stuff, got it back up to speed. Yeah, we're looking good. So just making sure everything's running all right. Yep. Hi guys, how's it going? So yeah, hopefully today we're going to continue with this guy. Obviously, this is my second miniature. The guys in the US are smashing through them pretty quick. So it's another Spectre miniature, part of the African Militia set. I've already chosen my colour schemes. I'm going to do similar to what I did last time with the contrasts. Same for sort of the skin texture, but I'd like to bring it up a bit more this time. Got it on the obligatory coin, super glued down. I do it on coins because you've got a bit of texture, so you can get a knife in to break them back off and then just, glue the next one down. It's a good mechanism for holding them. Again, I do like these holding. There's lots of different holding mechanisms. I'll be using this one for pretty much everything that I do. So, where to start? Well, let's have a look. I think I'm going to go from head to bottom this time. So, I say bottom, I mean not that one at the back. To the base of the feet. I'm going to start off with the Ultramarines Contrast Blue. We're looking at doing that for the headscarf. After that, I think we're going to transition into a Griff Charger Grey for the actual sort of the shirt area. This should give us quite a light contrast. It's quite a light grey. Although it does look quite dark here, we should see that come onto the model in a very different sort of shade. I wanted to have a light spot, as he says, as he drops the first of the paint. Glad I kept these lids on. So the next one would be a Talisar Blue, and the idea of this one is to bring up sort of a denim jean look, almost like a stonewash. And then we've got another guy in flip-flops, which is quite funny because it's becoming a thing. If you've seen some of the artwork from Jim in the last post, he's done some awesome baddies for the Transit game. And there were some choice flip-flop colours, namely the blue. This time this guy's going all tactical with his flip-flops, so we'll be using an orc flesh. After that, I think we'll go into doing the flesh itself. I'm going to bring it up to a lighter tone this time, but the core elements of it will be the same. I'll start with sort of the Citadel colours, the Buckle and Glow, which most people know is one of the base colours for flesh. Bring it up a bit with Cadian Flesh Tone. I'll probably bring this up more than once just to see where we're at. In fact, between that, we will do a Reichland Flesh Shade as well. So, yeah, busy day. Busy day. We'll see how we get on. If this one's a quicker model than the last one, or I've got some drying time, I do have a second miniature glued down to a base ready to go. This guy's quite a simple one. Is bare-chested. With a bag on his back, some fold-up trousers, and he's carrying what is one of the light support weapons for enemy forces. I think it's an RPK. You got that angled drum magazine on it. So yeah, but we'll see how it goes, and we'll play it by ear. Yep, blue flip-flops, I've seen them. So, starting off, as we've said, we're going to go in with the headscarf first. So I've got myself set up as usual. I'm running a wet palette. Got a bit of sponge from the supermarket for cleaning dishes with and such. And running it on water on a Tupperware tub. So I actually wanted to start these guys in the week, but just been one of them crazy ones at work, to be honest. It's... I imagine everybody in the people watching knows the difficulties of getting stuff done during the week. I know, Jim, you do, don't you? It's just about finding the time that you need. And when you plan it in, you think you're all good to go. Something comes up at work, you get delayed, and you end up not achieving what you were hoping to achieve. I'm dragging everything down from the top on this because I want a fairly heavy shadowing as we go. I'll try and keep it tidy around the eyes. It's thinning out a little bit, so I'm just going to give it another quick shake. Make sure the pigment's all in the right places. But yeah. Had a real pain with the Twitch today. For some reason, it's automatically logged me out. And with the actual Twitch being set up in the US, the guys over there, sort of the core holders, me being in a foreign country, it was like, well, wait a minute. Are you sure? You sure you're sitrep? You are halfway around the world? Send us a verification code. So that kind of scuppered. So I'm currently watching on our restream, which has a slight delay, which is quite funny, because that means I'm sure today, other than brush slips, possible the odd swear word when it goes wrong, which is normally balls, which is not quite a swear word, I suppose. The stuff may go out of shot, and I won't know for about 2 or 3 seconds due to the lag, the delay between the image coming up in front of me and this. I'm also going to have my eyes tested today because I'm reading Jim's messages about flip-flops, and flip-flops to match prevails the mini, and yeah, it's quite small print, so I might have to borrow, if you've seen G's awesome miniature painting glasses that she wears. Shout out to G and her failing eyesight. I might need a set of them myself today just to see what's going on. So if I do get quiet or I miss a message or you see me pause and potentially bang the camera as I lean in, that'll be the reason why. Somebody will have sent me something and I'm trying to read what it is so I can respond in kind. But no, the project's really coming along nicely. I think everybody's really happy with the progress on everything. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I mean, for me, even just coming on and painting, it's almost like a good way of forcing yourself to paint, because you're part of a team, you don't want to let the team down. Therefore, in those moments when you're really not in the mood to do some painting, you find it, you find that motivation, because you're part of a group that's doing a lot of work, and you don't want to be the guy that falls behind and makes the project more difficult for everybody else. Every time I sit down one of these guys, I stick, as I've done today, I stick 13 hours back on just to play through that initial bit where they first go and attack the compound, and I'm scanning through for clothes references to the bad guys, which when you think it's a film and not actually what they might have even been wearing over there is kind of lunacy. But I think most people will hold us to the film probably more than there's an actual after-action report, an investigation by the US, which you can download and read, which is quite interesting. It's a lot of pages. It's I think it's about 80, 90 pages. There's a full breakdown. It gives you the history, the run-up. I sent it through to Jim and a couple of the other guys, and yeah, it is an interesting read. So happy with that as the headscarf initially. I'll probably bring up a highlight. But everything's pulled to sort of the right place. It's a bit too dark on top here, but I'll do that with the highlight, hopefully. I don't want to touch the shirt yet because I'm going to tidy the collar. So I'm going to skip the shirt and come down to the jeans and give that top section time to dry. So we talked about the jeans. Yeah, this is something I've used before. I actually really like it for anything where you're looking for that sort of light coloured, almost that stonewash effect that you'd expect on a lot of the denim jeans that you get. I don't know, it just really shows through the Wraithbone nicely. Let's make sure this is shook up properly. It gives a really good covering, but it's got that lovely transparency. That means all the highlighted points, a lot of the work is done for you. To be honest, Again, we've talked about contrast paints on the last one that I did, and I'm sure I'll talk about on most of them just because of the different colours that we're going to be using. But you can already see it's showing through where you want the whites and the lighter colours to such a degree that once it flattens down, and I mean, if you find it's a bit too shiny, you can always go back in after with a matte coating of some sort, or a dull coat, or a form of sealant. You've got many options. Now, I will try and be reasonably tidy because nobody wants to clean up the whole model. So I will just pull out this blue that I've got onto the leg, as you can see. Sprayed a bit on the side. Different ways of doing it. Me, just water, tongue, or sponge, which I've got on my palette, so over the edge of my greaseproof paper. Because you can always white out again after. You've normally got that core colour of Wraithbone. If not, I've used some of the other options like your Shabty Bone, anything that's a really pale cream really will get you through it. Oh, Jim's drawn up a technical piece as well. So he's doing Somalia 1993 tomorrow, I think, by the look of it. So I'll definitely tune in for that, because Jim will be laying down the history and everything, running a game of that. Obviously, Sunday days and nights, the podcast has content. Always worth a watch if you've got that free time, if you're doing your ironing or you're getting the final bits of the weekend out of the way. Depending if you had a heavy weekend, you might still be recovering. So yeah, I've got the weekend just gone. Unfortunately, I missed the podcast. My friend Dom had got engaged, soon to be married, and myself and one of the other lads, Mark, had not seen him since it happened. So we had a bit of a get together last weekend. During the show, I think it was during the show, I was cheeky enough to send a picture from an Irish bar, and yeah. I was actually playing, to Dawn's delight, Star Wars Destiny, because I managed to talk a couple of them into it right before they just announced Going Under, which is quite funny. But this is all modern, so I'm not even sure I'm allowed to talk about that. I'm sure I'll get if you hear my phone beep, it'll be G or Jim pointing me in a different direction. Technicals, GRS operators in Benghazi. Oh, okay, so we've been looking more into all aspects, Jim, of the upcoming project. I mean, you should see the plaid shirt. If you've not seen it yet, you will soon. And if not, go and check it out. There's a plaid shirt he's done on the interpreter for the transit game. It is ridiculous. The amount of detail, speaking of detail, I'm just going to switch brushes for the gap. The amount of detail he's put into the artwork is immense. I love the shadowing that he's done and framed the sort of the characters in. It really does sell it. It's going to be an excellent rendition, I think. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. I've volunteered to be the bad guys. I kind of normally go for the bad guys. I don't know about you out there. I do like to play a bad guy. I don't think I have a reason. I just find that a lot of the time you get a bit more leeway in every aspect. There's more. The good guys are generally well organised, well equipped. They're uniformed. I quite like the vibrancy and the options that you get with mixed forces and guerrilla forces and all those types of things. So at the minute I've just got some pooling in certain areas. I'm just dipping my brush into water and just pulling them. I'm trying to do it before they stain. It's not too much of an issue if they stain, because I can do a second layer that will just darken them down again. But at the same time, I don't want it to, on this occasion, I don't want it to carry too much liquid in these creases. I just want enough to shadow it, really. So in some areas, we're just going to pull it out a bit. And the excess, I'm just going to put up near the top as a sort of a start of the shadowing for the body. And you know, if you find afterwards that you pull too much, then you take the same small brush that you pulled it away with and you go back in. You just chuck down another layer. It's not a problem. I think one of the... we try to be very neat. Sometimes we try to be a little too neat in what we're doing. And in doing so, we kind of lose some time, definitely. And we also... just zooming in a little bit here, guys. There we go. And we also make ourselves a lot more work when we could just go over and tidy it up very quickly at the end. Instead, we put an hour into being as tidy as we can in one area, whereas it'd have only took a few minutes for it to be painted and dry again to repair whatever your mistakes you made. So here we've got quite a contrast now. So I wanted to go for a really dark blue for the headscarf, which has worked out nicely. I wanted to go for this lighter blue for the trousers, which, like I say, is very sort of jean orientated, jean colourings. Just going to chuck that away. So I'm just going to look at the headscarf and see if it is fully dry, which it is. So there's a couple of places near the edges where it's just lifted back up. It being a thin coat, sometimes you have to go a little further. Like you say, trying to be reasonably neat and tidy means that I've just got areas that I need to just tidy up. So I'm going to do that now before I move on to my favourite bit, which will be the flip-flops. It's Marty's fault. I'm going to definitely 100% say, Marty, flip-flops of varying colours are your fault. Although, Jim, you've certainly set us a challenge, I will say that. And that's the red and white checkered football jersey. A jersey? Top, polo shirt, t-shirt, whatever you want to call it, from wherever you are in the world. Yeah, it's definitely like a football kit top that he's done on one of the guys. Now, Marty liking all the bright colour stuff, I'm sure that should be his bag. But I might do a rival team. If he's willing to take on that one, I might find one of the rival team colours. The good thing is now I've got a point of reference for some of it. Unfortunately, Jim, I don't think has any guys with headscarves on at the moment. I think he's building up to it, or he said he's got them as optional swap-ins. We shall see. Yep, Jim will be refereeing for the upcoming transit game, mainly because he knows all the rules and we'll all suck at them initially, because he's done an awesome job of building it pretty much from the ground up. I've used a number of game systems, I'd imagine. That'll all come through, I'm sure, in one of our podcasts as we take you through it, and then obviously in the game itself when the guys play it over in the US. I'm gutted I'm not going to be there for the actual physical game as well, but it's going to be an interesting. I don't think I've ever done a game that way remotely before. So I've done some tidying up, got the headscarf to a place that I'm happy with. How are we doing for time? Wow, time flies, man. You know, you look away for a second, you come back, and it's well away. So yeah, happy with this. This one's drying. I'm going to go into the flip-flops now. As I say, this guy's all about tactical when it comes to footwear, so we're going to jump in with a contrast dark green. The last guy was definitely not tactical. Well, in everything but footwear, I think we will say. His footwear being a light blue was definitely those cheap flip-flops that you sometimes see. The ones that are in the bargain basement section of your superstore or your malls and your... he was definitely shopping for value for money rather than quality or style, I think we'll go with. So here, I'm not too worried. The joy of having flip-flops, because it's all about the flip-flops, is the skin that is there is going to be base coated. So I'm not trying to cover it with another contrast, whereas I need to keep the colour ideally nearest to original as possible. I am literally going to blanket the whole thing in a strong base colour, so it's got a high level of pigment and a good level of coverage. You'll always know when I'm concentrating because I go quiet for a second while I stick my tongue into a certain position, normally out of my mouth, and then concentrate on trying to not paint his 16 toes of varying colours. The other thing I'm trying to do is not keep passing my hand in front of the camera. Oh yeah, Jim's not done headscarves yet, so I think there's a couple with variations. Obviously, we've got a guy in a cap. I think he was one of the ones G has as well. There's a couple of guys in hoodies, so I think there'll be the odd variation. But at the end of the day, it's 60 guys for the infantry game, and I don't know what the count is that you're going to be looking at for the transit game. I'm sure you have some initial ideas, but I don't know if we've locked the numbers in yet, because it is vehicle based for some of it, and I'm sure it'll end up getting to the point where they dismount probably before they go into the compound. Yeah, concentrating again. And the infantry part of the game will be possibly at various points if the vehicle gets stopped. You know, if there's an IED explosion, because it was prevalent in that area in the run-up, there was various forms of attacks, anything from grenades. There might be an RPG engagement. There's going to be some interesting mechanics that Jim's put together for randomizing. Concentrating. Randomizing what's going to happen, which I'm really looking forward to. So Jim's messaging me back and forth about the feet and the flip-flops and painting stuff before and after. And now the good thing is I've kept the tabs on the base of these, and that's kind of to give me some area to spill over, but give me a steady brush stroke. I am by no means an expert painter. You should see some of the guys out there and what they can do. My aim is just to get it to a reasonably good tabletop standard. Some of the stuff you see at things like Crystal Brush and the various painting competitions, or on those studio sites, you know, it's amazing, where they have a whole team of people doing different stuff. We're kind of in a great time for hobbying at the minute. I'm not sure if the future's going to get better or worse. We shall see. We've got a variety of companies producing paint. Oh, look at that. That's a massive pool there, you see. It's come onto the flesh, so I'll have to tidy that up, otherwise I'll get the staining on the skin. In fact, I'm telling a lie. I'm just talking rubbish. The base coat should cover that, but what I probably will do is just lighten that up. I don't want that to force me to have to repaint the top section of the leg again after. So I have confidence in the bases, but I'd rather make sure. I mean, I think G talked about it on the last podcast, about when do you say stop, because you can kind of keep layering up and keep going. Oh, the numbers for the transit game are deliberately unlocked. Who knows? Oh, that's going to be interesting. And you don't know if they're friendly or hostiles, because 17th Feb, I think it was, which were the part of the team guarding the compound, actually, were well known in the area, but it's one of those situations where everybody's kind of dressed in civilian attire or various other types of attire, and you don't know if the bloke in front of you with a weapon system is defending his home, making sure he's not getting looted as a business, if he's enemy forces, if he's friendly forces that's actually been called in to assist, because there's kind of a mix in military gear and such, to the point where rules of engagement are going to be tough decisions. Because, yeah, you shoot the wrong guy, and, you know, one, you've got the legal aspects potentially, but more importantly, you might have just made his 5 mates your enemies who are stood further down the road. And all these guys are actually coming to help you initially. So, yeah, interesting times it's going to be. So happy with the green on there. Let's have a look and see what's next. Yeah, we've got a bit of blue here. This is going to be a light colour, so now I'm just going to go back in with, well, I'm going to use Ushabti because I keep meaning to buy. Went out of shot and I just found out. So I'll say that again. This time in shot. I've got a bit of blue overlap here and a bit around the top of the collar here. I'm just going to make sure it's tidy up around this section as well. I'm going to take my time. The rest of it I've been reasonably tidy with. We shall see. So Jim's mentioning how it'll be Gianna's problem. I love the fact that there's going to be a lot of stuff that we're making Gianna's problem. Well, it'll be the team. So you've got Chris up there, Don, Gianna, Marty. Yeah, we shall see how they take it. So I've just put some Ushabti bone onto the palette. I'm just going to water it down a bit. We're just going to go in and tidy up these areas. You'll see this is actually a different colour to the Wraithbone. It's got a sort of a darker consistency to it, but just using it for coverage. It's close enough to the original to mean that it'll do the job. It'll rarely cover in one coat, even over the contrast, because once the contrasts are dry, they're actually they're so strong in pigment. Any of the darker colours really darken down the areas that they're on. It's in many ways it's as strong as some of the base colours once it's dry. The manipulation you can do up until then is pretty epic, and sometimes depending how long you leave it, I mean if it's fully dry it won't work, but there is a technical medium as well for it, specifically for the contrasts, that will keep it alive longer. So if you're not sure where you want it, or you want more time to pull because you're doing large surface areas with lots of detail, then they are really good. Where they really suck is flat panel painting, because, mind you, I've not tried with a big enough brush. I suppose it might work with a larger brush, but with anything that doesn't completely sort of cover the width of the panel in 2 or 3 strokes of up down of the brush, you get some quite considerable lines and staining where it's very obvious where things have, been painted and gone into it. So first layer's nearly done. I'm just fattening up. That's covered nicely there already. Up here at the back it's quite a strong blue, so I'm just dabbing in some additional pigment over the already drying layer, and we're pretty much there. Cool, so I need to let that dry. So with that in mind, where to go? Now I think flip-flops look dry, so we're going to go to the lower legs. So as we talked about before, I'm going to be using the Bugman's Glow. I mean, you see this a lot of the time. GW, it's kind of your standard 3, Bugman's Glow, Cadian Flesh Tone, Kislev Flesh, and then you can use white in between. You can mix these up to pair them up to give you more stages, so you can go from Bugman's Glow, mix in a little more of the Cadian Flesh Tone. It's really useful. It kind of transitions all the way from almost a brown once you put the flesh shade on through to a very light sort of elf-like pigment. So if you've got somebody that's of a particular pale complexion, you can still achieve it. Yeah, I do like it. I think for me it's a devil I know more than anything, and I think being comfortable with certain methods is pretty key. So I've chucked a bit on my palette. I was gonna stick with a small brush, but that'd just be wasting time, and the clock is always ticking. If you've been following us, I think G mentioned on the last podcast that we were something like 12 days, 8 hours left. So I've switched up the brush size and I've thinned it out a little too much. So I'm just going to add a little more. Now I think the board is going to be a big build as well. So Jim's racking up the hours, busting it, doing the transit game, which is cool. Ralph's been doing some card designs, so the characters and the different forces have got a card design as well for when they play the game. It'll allow them to track the various aspects of each of the GRS and potentially the enemy forces or key characters. And then you've got Marty, G, Dawn and Chris. I've been working hard putting all the GRS teams together. They're well ahead of me with enemy forces, as you can imagine. I think G said they've got 27 miniatures in total. I'm packing 13, and we're looking to do probably around 60. So we've still got some to go yet. Interested to. I think we've still got some more friendly forces to go as well, potentially, because we've got the diplomatic security, and these guys were the ones that were actually already in the. So there's two areas. There's the annex and the compound. The compound's deemed to be the area where the ambassador was staying, and the annex being the CAA black site. Speaking of black site, did you see the studios thing at the beginning? That's convenient, isn't it? Black sites. Shameless plug there for our lovely sponsors that help us out. Without them, we'd have less content and less capability in what we could produce as a team and as a podcast itself as well, across the channels and the audio files. So a big shout out to those guys. We're looking at getting... So the compound has a swimming pool in it. So one of my favourite things about this site is they have a great looking swimming pool that's perfect. And Marty and I are adamant we need a swimming pool. And I think the only way we managed to convince G initially of it, so I'm just going to carry on with the larger areas while I've got this brush loaded, was to offer to resin in a dead body or a body floating in it or some debris. And so there's going to be a little hobby challenge there in itself, I think, for the US team, unless they slyly manage to slide it onto my plate. It's not happening, guys. It's not happening. Models, yes. Scenery, it's down to the board builders. Oh, I do love it. Yeah, and the story, so the final battle, the largest battle in the film, is actually something that we'll consider in the future potentially, if you guys enjoy what we do with this first one. So the transit game and the defense and the rescue attempt of the... Concentrate in a second. Of the compound is what we'll be doing. In addition, the transit will play both ways. So it'll be route down and route back. So lots for us to think about. Switch brushes. Lots of key components that will, through each game, affect the next leg. So it's almost a 3-stage game. And the timeline of that is quite short in reality. The turnaround time from guys deploying to guys returning, that is. And really looking forward to seeing how that transitions to the tabletop. Now, we obviously see a lot of information, a lot of history stuff. Transit game will take more than 24 hours total. Definitely wanted to have a share of the time for the actual compound miniature game. Yeah, Jim's saying, you know, as you can see in the chat, he's talking about what we need to do. And it is going to be definitely something that's very polished if you've seen what Jim does. All his stuff looks friggin' awesome. You could pretty much turn it into a hex encounter game straight from his image house and his artwork that he produces. He really does put his soul into what he does, and you can feel the love of his history in that, in how much detail that he brings out, which it means when he's working with people like us who base it on films sometimes. He must be pulling his whiskers out. But the problem is, with a lot of people that will play the game will potentially look at the film as well. and use that as their start point for it. We're doing a bit of everything. We've looked at the film for... So what was blacked out in the report was what the guys were carrying, equipment-wise and such. We have the information of who, up to a point. I don't think Silver... So Silver's still not the real name of the main character. That was kept from the records. But he's always referred to as that due to them using that as a point of reference for him. So we'll end up naming him the same thing. The numbers count should be right. The support team that came in through Italy, I think it was, they were based. Got there in a certain amount of time, but that was for the sort of the final fight. So in this initial setup, that won't be an aspect that they have. Although I do think they had a drone on site, but it was an unarmed drone. But that could give the guys, depending what equipment is chosen to be held by them, the opportunity to use that as part of locating enemy forces, route selection, which will be a key aspect, especially in the transit game. I don't think they had it on the way out, but potentially I think it was up by the time they were moving back. Now the difference that has been speculated about is if the guys that have had the opportunity to set off in the first few minutes of the call going out, what sort of impact would that have had at the compound? Oh, me touch my foot. It's gone to sleep. And that's an aspect that we're really looking into as well. It's going to be an interesting one because essentially it's unusual in that the longer they leave it till they go, the more chance enemy forces that are starting to dissipate by the time they arrive. Concentrating. The actual delay, I think, was around 35 to 40 minutes. And hopefully this is in, yeah, it's in shot. I had one of them moments then where I'm physically putting myself kind of thinking about the camera in the back of my mind in a position where I can comfortably use the brush correctly to sweep across this, which means I've got less chance of actually painting the headscarf in a lovely flesh tone. That gap goes a little further back there. That side, same again. The good thing about these Spectre miniatures, they've got a really good level of detail. Yeah, it allows your brush to find the creases, be it in the clothes, the skin that I was just doing there, where the headscarf retracts back. It gives you a lot of opportunity, really. I'll let you guys read Jim's latest message up there. But yeah, Michael Bay was the director, so it was always going to be a little bit action heavy. Now there was a series came out, what was it on? I think it was on the History Channel. It was during what I would call Remembrance Day, or in honour of Remembrance Day. And I know in the UK that's 11th of November, or Sunday, and various days around that period vary between World War I and World War II. But generally, soldiers lost, you know, Veterans Days, or like I say, different nations, different sort of views, but very similar and almost unanimously at a very similar time as well. Okay, let's not paint the flip-flops pink yet. That's the next one. I need to stop laughing before I do this bit. This is a perfect time to have a swig of a drink. Oh. Oh, that's better. Right. Steady-ish hands again. I'm going to reload the paintbrush and then probably start laughing again as soon as I pick it up, which is not helpful at all. Yeah, looking forward to. The show that I watched is called Warfighters, and it covered I think it was mainly US military. Spoke about the Rangers, lead the way, Navy SEALs, and a lot of the interviews were modern conflict. So I think the first episode actually delves into the backstory of the Lone Survivor movie and sort of the realities of that from the aspect of the Rangers that went in to recover the bodies of the fallen from the Chinook that got shot down, and then realizing they still had a guy on the ground, an element of the initial force that went out to collect them, made the transition down to pick up the main character from the movie. I can't remember his name, which is quite bad, really. It's one thing that's just popped in my head. It's not something I've referenced recently because it's been out a while. Can you remember his name, Jim? Yeah, so Jim's talking back about the game there, where the percentages for the ambassador survival change depending on what happens in the transit game, the time they leave, and that's for the 13 hours one. I was thinking the other day about this, so I'm hoping to do more and more painting. I've still got lots of models that we're going to be chatting about, and I'm wary of covering the same ground when it comes to what we're using and such each time. So it's what to chat about, really. I think I came across a number of subjects that I think we could bring up and kick around a little bit in the comments if you're watching this, a few hours later, if you lasted this long. And look how pale his toes are in comparison. And sort of the transition from movies to concentrating. Wow, you're going to hear me breathing in a lot because you can tell when I'm holding my breath. I'm sure all the way through this you'll hear the click of my tongue, which is it probably coming back into my mouth from being stuck out while I concentrate, being the giant child that I am. The sucking in of breath as I've breathed out or breathed in to do a part of the model. And because I'm a bloke, I can't do two things at once. So at the end, I need to suck in a quick breath or blow one out before I fall over. Oh, steady hand. Everybody loves pinkies. And transitions from films of stories like Siege of Jadotsville, Zulu, Rock's Drift, ones we've talked about today. So that would be the Lone Survivor, 13 Hours, which we're doing as a project, obviously. Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. There's a lot out there. Dunkirk, obviously, has been done recently. Midway has been done recently. And then you've got a plethora of Vietnam films. I do wonder. I mean, I'm not a rivet counter. I'm not a gamer that needs it all to be absolutely perfect. So I understand that a probable truth is the only people that really know the story are the guys that were in the shit. Oh, not allowed to swear. In the thick of it. And even after action reports and such, you're not necessarily going to get the full story that way. We've all seen the documentation blacked out. If you look into 13 hours like I did, you can find a report that like I said, limits what you can see for the equipment for the GRS for that very reason. We're speculating and using the film as a point of reference, mainly due to the fact that some of the guys from the event were there on the film set to take them through what happened, you know, or to add or take away the realism or the stuff that was blatantly not the case. Hopefully you won't hear that background noise. So I live in a house that, well, it's a motorcycle, that might as well have no windows sometimes. Because it's not a busy, well, I say it's not a busy road, it's a reasonably busy road because it's an estate road for a modern sort of housing estate, which in the UK, they're quite built up. They're so poorly built sometimes. So that is double glazing, and the sound's not coming through the window, it's coming through the wall. But I'll take it, because people are a lot worse off than me. And unfortunately, there ain't much I can do about it. So, we've got his knobbly knees done. We've almost got the toes done. I've killed the flip-flops in a couple of places, but that's okay because we've got the core layer down, so we'll go back over that anyhow. Just behind his knees here, we've got light spots. Cool. Happy with the inner arms around the sleeve on one side. On this side, I've got a bit of his forearm that's not done. So I've tried to be a lot neater this time because I'm coming up to the point I'll be painting the white. So the flesh I've tried to be quite neat with. I'm definitely going to do the flesh all the way up first because I need the white. I say white. It's a grey, but it'll have probably a white highlight. Haven't seen Midway yet. No, I've not seen it yet actually. It'd be interesting to see how they. It's got to be CGI, hasn't it? So I hope they put the money in. Oh, there's a 5-part article series coming out. All right. So yeah, have a look at Jim's post. You might be kind enough to find the link to it and put it in the chat thread. So if you are interested in a bit more on the Midway, there's actually an article that is out there that you'll be able to read and get up to speed from a gaming historian's perspective. Cool. So just having a good look at the hand now before I start, because obviously colour starts to, when it's a universal colour at the beginning, you kind of sometimes lose the focus. So I need to make sure I'm painting a finger and not part of the gun. Yeah, it makes sense that his finger's wrapped. I can see it's raised now that I've turned it around to get an above view. Just make sure this is in camera, even though I can't see if it will be or not for a few seconds. And again, I'm just keeping quite neat. The gun's going to be black. Yeah, I'll have to be a little bit neat with that as well. We'll be using the Templar black. If you watched the last video we did with the first Militia guy, I did like how the gun turned out, so we'll be pretty much going through the same process, which was the contrast, I think it's Black Templar. Let's have a look. Contrast Black Templar, Mechanica Standard Grey from Citadel as a base colour, and White Scar, and it's like a 3-stage. It just makes the gun pop a bit. Sometimes black can be lost. I don't know if you've ever seen a black car with black wheels, and you kind of can't make out the pattern of the wheel because it's so dark. It just sort of hides the aspects unless it's a shine. Got a shine on it, or the sun's directly on it to give it some sheen. This is where I'm taking too long now because these are all going to get washed. So these corners that I'm painting up that are slightly white here and there are going to be taking pigment that's going to sit in them because of the deepest recesses. And this is my weakness of sometimes I go too far, and something that G talked about in the last one as well. Cool, so happy with that. What I have found is, so the blue up here just on the rim of the head scarf was just pulled a little bit away. So while I've seen it, and as it's a quick fix, I'm just going to pop that contrast back open. I'm just going to darken down that area and pull it across it again. Also, I can just tidy up the edge if I've touched it with any of the flesh highlight. base color even. Cool. Sweet. So like I say, I don't want to do the white yet because it's almost the color I want it to be. So we're now going to go in. In fact, what should we do next? Happy with the blue of the trousers. What do you guys think? Happy with the headscarf, has some definition, but I'm going to tidy that up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the gun out of the way. He does have some sort of pouch, I want to say, on the bottom of the... Ah, it's probably duct tape, or I think he's duct taped the magazines together. So he's got one in, one on the reverse, because I can't see it. Yeah, it'd have to be on the reverse, and to clip in, so he's got an easy mag change. This guy's quite prepared. He's got his tactical flip-flops on, and he's got two magazines that are overlapping, which is awesome. This guy's got skills. So, we're going to go to Temple Black. Happy days, into the shot. Let's give it a shake. So I really like this for guns and such, especially with a light highlight underlying colour. I'm going to stick with a small brush because I want a quite high level of controllability. Weapon system's quite small. Just concentrating a little bit because I've got the hands for one, which yes, they're easy to repair because they've got a base colour on, but the actual shirt will require time lost trying to repaint that up and achieve what we need to again. I suppose the good thing is, he says as he pauses to make sure he's not going to screw it up too badly. I love metal miniatures in the sense of they're easily repurposed. You can dip them. You don't have to overthink it. You know, you're not looking for certain things so it doesn't break down the plastic or the resin. You can literally strip and start again. At the same time, I think everything has its place. The level of detail on a resin that you can achieve now is excellent. The level of detail you can get on plastics now is very good. The volume for things like those, especially plastic if it's machine tooled. There's all new eras of technologies and printing, 3D printing at home from STL files. You can pick up a decent printer now for very little money, maybe 250 pounds, so 300 bucks, and you'll get a good printer that will definitely do any amount of small scenery based on the actual bed size that it prints up from, to spending quite a lot of money and not achieving a lot more detail when it comes to scenery. Infantrymen and small small miniatures, yes, they might not be the best one for. But went out of shot. Well, the gun didn't, at least. Yeah, it's a real pain with this time lag. Definitely going to get that sorted for next time. So every week I'm learning something new, which is cool. I have a level of technical competence. It's like primary school or year one level. No, I'm not quite that bad. I am not a technophobe by any stretch of the imagination. I've just never had to video stream stuff, really. Never had to build stuff, content and such. The appreciation I have for graphic artists is very high. Always has been, though. It's not a new thing to me. It's just something that I'm not adept at. Something I'm working on, slowly but surely. Starting with photography, I managed to get a nice little free online photograph manipulator through an editor system, which is allowing me to just crop a little better. If I've screwed up the lighting, it allows me to do a little more. But more importantly, things just to add in words and such, really, put them in the right place, right format, and it'd be a very easy mechanism to use, rather than me losing 6-8 hours and a lot of sleep trying to achieve something that still looks like a dog's dinner by the time I've finished, or a cat's dinner if you're a cat person. I found that painting for me, even on camera, is quite therapeutic. So when you hear me prattle on for long periods making nonsensical noises, it's actually therapy. It really is. I've started painting friends' models, as well as my own. I've not painted any of mine on camera yet. No. So I've painted them for, as you know, for the podcast. Let's get this into the right position because this is a bit finicky in here. So this is quite a dangerous area. I've got the hand itself, and I'm trying to make sure, so if it goes out of shot, it's because I don't want to sacrifice the model for getting it on camera. I've got a good base here. I've got my forearms on the table. I'm using my hand against my hand to lean into. I wasn't breathing really so much as blowing out continuously while talking rubbish. That deserves another drink, I think. So I'm on Coke Zero today. I don't know what you guys are on. If it's anything like normal, it's what, Life of Juice, as you guys call it. I'm glad Jim's watching. He's been able to give some cool details out as I do the just this little bit of the model. So yeah, happy with the gun system now. I'll see if I can get it to a position where you can actually see what the lighting effect is on this. So I'm just letting the camera catch up. Yep. So you see here all around the breech and the fingers, it's quite dark, and then when this rise section, it says, it picks up a bit of the light and in various areas. So we'll be bringing that up after with a quick highlight and such. What to do next? So again, I wanted to leave the shirt till last because I may need to do repair work. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to flash shade the skin. I think this will be one most of you'll recognise. Raycon flash shade. Again, this one's been around for a very long time. I'll paint it straight from the pot. Should I keep the small? I'm not going to keep the small brush. I just want to be able to manipulate it in larger amounts. So I'll go back to my mid-sized layer brush. I think skin's one of the hardest things to get right, and anatomy. The model I've been painting recently has very pronounced anatomy. I mean, it's a superhero model, so I've been using sort of bodybuilders photography. So trying to build the legs, get the correct sort of anatomy to it, because on that model, it's key. On these ones, it's got a level of detail there, but nowhere near as pronounced as you can imagine the superhero stuff does. And I didn't really cover anatomy that much at school to the point I was comfortable painting it without a point of reference. And it's been a great tool. It's actually been quite a good learning curve for me. That just building up layers in the right places can give musculature even to a model that in areas doesn't physically have the sculpt said muscle. So I'm just going to pull there's some excess here. So I'm going to pull it up to the top of the legs, the knees. Don't know if you can see, there's a lot of shine just on the top of the foot here. There's a bit too much even to put up the top. So I'm just going to dampen the brush out and pull it. Because this will start to be a light spot as the top of the shorts shadow the top of the knees. The lower part of the leg will be a light spot. I feel like it's settled, not quite right there, so I'm just going to move some more in there. There we go. So we'll see how that dries. Another thing with these is you've always got to wait until it dries just to be certain what you wanted to achieve has or hasn't been achieved. Because if you do too much layers, you kind of lose the vibrancy of the skin. It really darkens down. Again, you can always tell a good sculpt in the hands. These guys have got nice creases between their fingers. There's no sort of webbing, even though they're so close together and so small on this miniature. Trying to be tidy-ish. I'll keep going back to that. White shirt is not my best, not my best choice for a quick paint job. How we do for time? Oh, that's not too bad. So we're at about an hour. I've almost got the base colours down. I've still got the strap for the weapon system, the wood on the weapon, the top, and that's the base colours done. I'm going to highlight some areas. Let's say I've got the second mini. It might be that we get to it, it might not. Let's do a bit more on this hand. Pull a bit off. There you go. I'm just going to put some into the crease of the elbow because I want to make sure that's a darker area. And got good coverage at the back. The legs are drying quite nice actually. I can see some clear areas. The shin here's got a bit too much on, so I'm just going to pull a little bit of that away. Looks like he's got a flesh wound now because I've left it too long. So we shall see what we'll do with that. So here's a good example of where we talked about pooling before. I should have stayed with the legs until they were done, in which case I'll just now check the arms to make sure I'm not going to suffer the same consequences for them. Just going to put a bit into the crook of the arm here. There we go. Just pull the excess back a bit. There we go. So yeah, that's not going to pool anywhere, which is fine. So yeah, I left it too long. It looks like a flesh burn. Now, I found that this is actually very good for stuff like artillery breaches. You know where you've got the shell point, it slides into the breach, close the door, open the door, slides back out, and it has the runner that allows the shell to smoothly go. One, be placed before it slid in, and two, to come back out. And I did it by accident. So what was I painting? I was painting 88s, German 88s. Put the black, so we'll use this as the term here. So this forearm essentially is the breech is just in front of it, and this is the back of the breech, and you've got the, I don't know what it's called because I'm not an artilleryman, but you've got where you'll lay the shell before you slide it in. I put the black so thick on here as an ink, or a shade, and then left it too long and realised, pulled the excess off. What it did, which was really nice, was the shadows at the edge, the staining, meant that the centre was lighter, showing the silver through that I'd put underneath it. And the black wash that I'd used, which I think was a normal oil, had left this edge to it that made it look like it was well used, and gave a level of, almost like a level of realism to it. I mean, this one you could treat as a burn, for example, on the shin. I don't want it to be, so we're going to go back over that and do that again, because that's the way I am. But yeah, so there is mechanisms you can find in making mistakes. In fact, I need to keep that out because we're going to be redoing that. So I'm just going to quickly pop open. Oh no, I've got my wet palette. Joys of a wet palette. My Bugsman's Glow from before is still live. So all I'm going to come do, and this is what we'll be highlighting him up with anyway after. It's a quick repair. Now I've kept it thin. I've kept it in thin sort of striations running down. That's to try and get rid of some of the shape of what damage I caused. I'm going to come up here as well. You can see we've kind of almost blended it out now because the colour as it dries darker. So happy with that. I say you can see. I hope you can see. The last bit I need to do with the shading is obviously the facial features. I'll try and keep it in shot as before. I'll be turning the model around because again I want these to have a good level of coverage without getting too much in the wrong places. I find that if I just load up the tip of the brush a bit, take some excess off, then just dab in as well, I can highlight the eyes and pull and push by dabbing where I want it to be. And this is not the dance dab we're talking here. The good thing is this layer, because I kept it thin and because I dragged it the way I did, this is already dry down here. So what we can now do is go back in and we're going to repair my mistake. I'm trying to be careful not to put too much up at the top because it's already got a layer there and it will darken it down a little too much. I'm just going to dot down it to break up. Same as before. Cool. And that's that. So we've prepared the skin, flash shades on, Bicadian flash tone next. Sorry, it will be back to the base colour next to highlight it, and then maybe a flash tone. So I need to do the brown next. I think we're going to get this strap out of the way and some of the elements of this weapon system so I can identify wooden stock against metal. Now that's one thing I forgot. So I did prepare myself really well up until I forgot to pull out the brown. The good thing is I remember it from last time because I picked up the first one that I just made the mistake of. I did exactly the same last time, and we're going to be using the Mournfang brown. I quite like this brown. It's sort of a mid-level brown, so you can do a lot with it. You can add striations to it if you want to do some staining almost of the wood or the wooden grain. It dries a little darker than it looks, which is another boon for me. I do like a darker wood. In fact, we were looking, I think it was Marty and I were talking, I think we're going to see at some point a gold AK-47 on a gangster guy. Whether that's your cup of tea or not, I'm not sure. But we've talked about it, so it's probably in somebody's mind. Cheers, buddy. Cheers, Jim. Yeah, it's definitely coming along. We're getting the details up. So I'm going to switch back to my smaller brush because I want to have the wood elements here done. I'm going to keep the strap the same. I might just highlight it though, just to bring it up. So I've chosen the smaller brush so I can push it through the inside of the strap, have a lot of control and just pull in the direction of the strap, trying to keep the amount the brush is sitting in equal to the length of the strap. So the length, the depth of the strap, should I say. So again, change position, and we're doing kind of the same thing. You can see my brush has got quite a fat amount of paint on. That could go anywhere. So I'll just take it off. So now I can just see I've got a wet brush. Just pull it into where I want it to be. I'm concentrating because I've gone quiet. Cool. The good thing is there's an underside there I'm going to have to come back to do as well, which was kind of hidden by the fact the model base coat is so pale. Now rather than try to go straight underneath, I'm just going to run the edge so that if any excess goes over I can smooth it out when I go to the inside. I'm going to make you sick with all these turns during this one. I'm not held. I would like to point out that now that SitRed Podcast is not held responsible for any seasickness gained during watching View and a Brew with Gaz. If it happens with G in that, feel free, but it's nothing to do. I've done my disclaimer. Yes, a gold-plated AK. I don't think. I don't think we're in the warlord area with Benghazi. This one's quite an unusual angle to have that many gold-plated or people rich enough to wield a gold-plated weapon system. But there is some definitely some gangster-looking minis in the range that would really suit carrying that type of personalized and not necessarily with trigger pull or sighting systems but personalized for no apparent reason other than looking and showing how much money you've got. Man, can you imagine? It must warp on the barrel. If the barrel gets hot, it'd be what a waste. Oh, this is a pain now. So I want to do something, but the angle to get in I would be completely off camera to do. So instead I will struggle a little bit without overcommitting. Whew. Cool. So all I've got left that I'm missing is change the angle a couple of times, but just bottom center here is a clear spot. Oh, that does show though that I need to go back in with the blue on the groin. Pretty much show you an angle you should be able to see. That's something I'll get at the end. I don't know if you've seen the other video I did. I sort of do a once over after. It normally adds 6 or 7 minutes worth of painting, but it's all places that are not quite right. So this one looks like a more compact version of the AK. It's a cut down stock, so there's no wooden stock on the back like there was on the last one I did. I guess I'm looking at the foregrip mainly. I could leave it as metal, but I think I'd like to have the contrast of two colours. Again, we're about to find out if I'm overthinking it, and if I don't like it, as you've seen, if I'm not happy with something, I'll go back and I'll change it. Like I say, concentrating. Cool. Now I can completely get the other side here of the strap. I'm just going to check the top by running it over there as well. I'm going to run it through from the front. This has got to be probably the most widely used weapon in the world. It may be the... I don't know. I was about to say it may be the weapon that's fired the most rounds, but... Second World War? First World War? What do you guys think? Yeah, like Jim says, so many copies, knockoffs, versions. Yeah, it's a tough one. Tough one. I don't know if it would be or wouldn't be. You know what? I'm going to do that tape green. Green? Or duct tape. Maybe duct tape. Do you have duct tape in North Africa? I'll have a think. Cool. So, happy with that Montfang Brown. I will say it on the video. That way, if I forget, I know where to look. We talked about the blue that I need to tidy up. We've got that done. We've got that done. So I think, are we base coloured down except for the shirt? We are base coloured down except for the shirt. I'm going to highlight everything else first. That shirt is going to be the death of me because I'm going to screw it up. So I'm going to leave that till absolutely last. How are we doing for time? 1/4 past. So about 45 minutes left. Yeah, I think we can. I think we'll be fine. I think I ran a little over last time. We should be fine. So the blue. I want to bring that blue up a little bit. I want to highlight it up. The question is, way too bright. Which blue to use? I have a fair selection. That's the one I'm after. I'm going to use this one. I think this one thinned down will give me just enough. So this one is a base colour actually, a McCrag blue, not a layer paint. Doing it out of order. If you find my voice is a bit shaky, it's because I'm shaking paint. I'm going to take a dab, put it onto the wet palette, and we'll see how we go. So, is this the right colour? How much water should it be? So I want it reasonably thin, but I don't want it to be... It's not like I'm doing layers for a skim model, you know, that I'm going to be spending hours on. This is to get it to a good tabletop standard. The good thing is I can see a lot of the light spots now, especially as I'm using a lamp. So where to begin? I think where to begin is obvious. Start at the top. So I've got these wings coming out of the back where the material's gathered. I've got a nice light spot there. I'm just going to feather the edge. Make sure I've got, it's nice and thin. So if I'm not happy, I will know in a minute or two if I need to repair it. Get a bit more water with my mouth on the brush. Now the other thing to remember, as we've always said, or I always say, you need to let it dry before you make the final decision on if that was too light or too dark. Got too much in the middle, a nice easy fix here. Just dab my finger, bring off any excess. That's cool. Bring it up a bit, there we go. Lots of spinning, lots of assessing going on. And the peak of the head is here, so I'm just going to run the edge of the brush loosely across there. Not quite in the best light spot, so I'm going to move it over to this side. I'm just going to change the angle of the camera slightly. Not enough, so I'll just bring that to there. Alright, I'm just going to watch the screen a second, see where we get up to. Wow, 30 million. That's crazy. Cool, so that's a bit better angle for viewing with the light. You can see the blue on the front of the head now. We're going to do the underside. I would say shemag, but it's not. And I've got another highlight point there. So here we're almost looking for what is white, light blue. And I'm just running the blade of the brush over. I'm sorry if this is stuff that everybody's already well aware of. I guess I'm just talking through this as well as talking rubbish. I suppose the good thing is you can see from this different colours that you might have in your collection, because I post a photo up on Facebook after of the final thing. The photo is not messed around with lighting wise, other than it's put into a light box that I have living on my fridge of all places, and that's just to make sure we get a good picture. But I don't really do anything with the lighting unless it mucks. Well, if it mucks up, I just take the picture again. Essentially, it allows me to put text into images, the new sort of software stuff that I've got. So I want a clearly defined highlight at the top. So I've got a nice bit of dark just after. That should allow a decent amount of highlight. So it's quite a hard, quick highlight, because I don't want to lose too much time on this, like we said, because these are to a tabletop standard. We're doing 60. The team are doing Americans, the GRS. In fact, I don't know who's doing the. Something we've not really talked about is the models for the diplomatic security yet. Should be an interesting one. So I've got a bit of a highlight on that. I can just about see it. What I would do is check it under sort of, as I've said in the last video, gaming room light, because not every home has a really strong light set and these need to be able to be visible. So I think that's going to end up coming up one more layer, which will be quite cool. The good thing is that blue we just had before, we're now going to use on the trousers. So let's see if I can find it again. So this one, the question is, does it need it? In fact, there's just one bit of highlight I've missed. Just in there. Cool. I don't think it needs it. It is quite poppy as it is, and I don't want to dull down the contrast too much. I think what I will do though is just go back in and tidy up the bit we spotted that we talked about. So if I go up to said position, maybe it'll be in camera shot, maybe it won't. I'm about to find out now. Yeah, there it is. So you can see what was quite a recessed area. Oh, I'm all shaky because I'm not supporting myself properly. I'm trying to keep it in shot. There we go. If you're not shooting right, rebuild your firing position don't waste bullets. Works for painting as well. Especially when you zero in. So I was told. The shot must be fired and followed through without any undue disturbance to the position. Sight alignment and the sight picture should be correct. All that good stuff from basic training. Basically means take your time, do your zero right, and then when you do need to point it and shoot it at something, it should hit it. If it's in range. And if you can calmly shoot in a scenario that unfortunately you'll be firing your weapon in. Oh, into the humming phase. Right, that is all tidied. No, it's not. I can just see. It's always between the knees. A bit there. Cool. So I want to make sure my dark spots are dark. So I've already done the seat of the pants up here. I'm just going to rerun some of these creases that I feel, as you saw me do earlier, I took some paint out. Too much. This just re-emphasizes if you're not quite got a full. This one here is quite weak, as is that one. That one's good. That one's good. There's one there just on the back of the knee. That one should be pretty dark. So we're thinking about lighting a little bit. So I've done a darker patch under the edge of the shirt because the shirt's sticking out. I've done a darker patch over the top of the hip here, again for the same reason, but now I've also got the elbow. So I'm just going to bring that down just a tad. Flicking it around to the other side, same scenario. It's quite bright. We're into the corner. I actually want the corner to be a little darker. The joy of this is I'm not going to be doing another highlight on it, so this is the equivalent of me doing a layer paint highlight or an edge highlight. And instead of bringing colour up, I'm just darkening colour down, and that will give me the same level of contrast that I was after. So I'm just going to put one in there. So you can see the fold here from the centre. I'm just going to feather that edge, so when that dries, that'll be slightly darker. And if I sweep it across underneath, it gives a folded material shape because I've got this shape here. And if I just darken this area, give it a point on it. So now I've got what looks like more of a material being folded out, which it is, but that bit was flat a second ago. Same for this one. I'm just going to pull up on the inside. This is quite a large flat surface, so I'm going to add a bit here. And then I'm going to add another one here. I'm just going to fatten it out just a little bit so it's a bit wider at the core where it goes in. Again, just do another one there. And we're just building up the paint essentially. So one tooth in there, one I'll darken that. So at least I've got some striations going on. Yeah, that, no, last bit on the leg. Happy with the pants. So headscarf is done, might need a highlight because it's going to be the top of the head. Want to keep that light. Pants are done, happy with that. I think it's time to go back to the skin. What do you reckon, guys? Oh, we got the weapon. Hopefully that squirty noise wasn't too loud. That was me sucking my teeth. So quick drink. I'm back in the game. Weapon. Yeah, we're doing the weapon next. So a quick shake. So we're going in with a Mechanicum's standard grey. There are lighter greys, but I want a reasonable transition. I don't want to be too bright. So this should form essentially a small amount of shade. And then the white highlight will give me a nice edge, he says, in confidence. It's not about confidence. This one's about competence. So I've already given him a burn on his leg that I had to get rid of. We'll see if we manage to do the gun without any mistakes. Still got to touch up them flip-flops because they're the key component. The joy is, although this has got a headscarf on, Jim's already got the green flip-flops mapped, so I'm good to go there. Fuzzy target, counter mass on clear sight post. Site alignment, site picture. Those were the days. I've just put Jim back about, ooh, what, 5 years, Jim? I'll be kind. 5, 10 years? Back to your misspent, well, not misspent, I suppose. Back to your unmisspent youth. Oh, and you find there's a bit that the black didn't go on to. Oh, damn it. Balls. Two big hairy ones. Right, so contrast paint's back on the brush. The Templar black. I'm just going to touch in here. Get any excess off. I've royally screwed that up. But we've still got to paint the white, and that's what I was worried about. So it won't affect it at all. So the hard part now is just getting this into, there we go, the right place. So I've got the grey loaded. I'm going to leave that area until last. It's taking out a shot to blow on it a bit. And back in. Cool. So I'm just going to run sort of the top of the barrel down the edge of the sight. Then here, top of the barrel. Too much on the brush. I'm just highlighting the edge at the top essentially. Back, we've got a couple of details to work with. So just cut across them in striations. Here, got the edge of the thumb, top of that barrel. Just go down. Magazine area. And I've got around the bolt carrier assembly, if it has one. If it's like what I'm used to, it will, most definitely. I've got a second set of mags here, so I'm just gonna do a sweeping edge, a bottom edge, and change the angle. I might be out of focus. Let's just switch grip with a swept edge. Seasickness alert. Too late. I'm just going to drag the center line on the magazine as well. And that's pretty much it. Oh no, there's a bit on the barrel just where the hand grip is. It's not quite gone low enough for what I want. There we go. Cool. So I'm happy with that. Yeah. So what to jump back to? We've lost some of the brown in here with the blue that did the grind. So a quick touch up of that area. When I say quick, I mean done. I think we're going to end up doing this green, you know. We'll see. Back to the skin pigment. So again, back to the base colour this time, the Bugman Glow. I've thinned it down. We'll see if that's too much or not in a second. So where to start? Well, I want a clear picture of if I've thinned it enough or not. So this is just back to what was the original colour. I'm just going to run it on these fingers that are the high points. Which seems to be... yeah, that's fine. So we've got the trigger finger, all about the trigger finger. Take the excess off with my mouth. And here on the forearm, just touching the top of the forearm. Now I'm just going to fatten it out a little bit where the bit catches the light at the front. That's cool. I want a bit more on the trigger finger and the top of the hand because it's the highest point. So it's like a second layer almost because it's so thin it's drying already. Get the excess off. Do another sweep. Might help if I keep it in the centre. At least it didn't go out of shot, hopefully. 30 years. Oh, well, if you wish to change your name, I wouldn't change your name, Gene. You'll have to redo all your emails and stuff. So I'm going to do the top of the thumb. He says, there we go. The pad of the hand. I've got quite a bit of forearm here, so we're just going to diagonally, back and forth, feather that up. I'm always trying to keep in mind where the light source is. The contrast really helped with that anyway. Let's just change this camera angle just slightly. So we'll keep it fat to this area and then gradually reduce the coverage towards the elbow. We'll have another look at that in a sec. So calf muscles, I'm going to do an inner edge just to give me a point of reference for that side as well, but I'm going to keep that one really thin. So I'm just going to water that down just a touch. I'm going to come across here and back up. And I'm just going to pull the Achilles tendon, leave a slight discoloration so it looks like the calf is a bit fatter than the soleus, which is underneath it. I only learned that because I was doing physio for a while. The names, that is. On this side, so again, too much, straighten the mouth, dampen it down, take any excess off that I can. There we go, that should be alright. I'm going to come across and make the calf look like it's pinched, so it's all tense. And then, because of the way this one's sculpted, I'm going to thicken out the bottom. I'm just going to come up this side, leaving a brown area that you should be able to see. I'm going to just dab the inside and fatten this area out here a bit. Cool. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It gives me a point of reference for different parts of that. Here, just on the outside at the top, just want to make sure I've not got too much. There we go. First time I've used the nail. Sometimes I do. It's not very often. I'm just going to thin this back down and pull it down the shin. That should give that sort of side view of a flesh tone, I hope. So like the lights just come in. Yeah, I'm happy enough with that. I actually want to form the knees a little bit. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're doing okay. So again, essentially I'm just rounding the knee. I want a bit of a light spot at the bottom. Over here is almost, the knee's actually pushed out on the model, so I'm just going to bring it back central a little bit because it would look like he was twisting it by doing the center line and then fattening out just the inside. There we go. This could all be wrong, this could all be very amateur. I apologise if it is, but that's what I am. We're just going to run the shin bone, and I only want to start it because the leg sweeps back, and then I just want to feather it out a bit here. That's cool. This one's a bit more exposed, so I will go for a larger area. Paints are really thin at the minute, so I can chuck them in my mouth like that. Use a sponge, use a bit of water, take off the excess. I want that, there we go. So now I can actually see, there's almost like a bone line here on the model for me. Just going to put a bit more paint on the brush now and dab up that to bring it a bit more paint. As this is his leading leg and it'll be catching the sun the most, I want it to be more emphasized than the other one. Cool. Nearly there. Let's flatten out that bit just a little bit. I just want to touch a couple of places even though it's going into shadow. This side, same as before. I'm just gonna have the light just angling down it a bit. Really thin layer, just feathering, so it does have some colour shift. I'm gonna leave the toes because I like doing toes, if I can get them right. And have another look at the arms. It's definitely a colour transition. I'm definitely happy with that side. Just want the fingertips now to pop a bit more. So instead of painting down them this time, I'm just touching across with the tip of the brush. Trigger finger, as we said, I kind of want that to be a good feature. Up to the back of the hand. Then just another bit later. Fun bit, face. At least this one's mostly covered. Oh, changed position. Now with it being mostly covered, I've got eyebrows to work with. Eyebrows. The ridge of the brow line. The nose and under the eye. Maybe the edge of an eye socket on one side. So not a huge amount. So I'm going to take my time with this, because this will be a focal point. So the ridge of the nose is easy for me to start with. I'm going to go above the eye. Fresh bit on the palette. I would zoom in, but I don't think with the settings of the zoom on the camera it would like it for one, and pick it up for two. So we'll have to see on the photo if you are able to see it or not when I take the photos after. I'm getting myself in some right wrist contortionist positions here, so I can try and keep it in shot. Crazy times. Run the eye socket. There's a sort of a ridge here. Just going to feather a little bit. Not too much onto the blue. Just get rid of that bit, which we've done. And just gonna, that's too much on the brush. So hard to judge sometimes what you've got on the brush, especially when I'm working under lamp, because off to the side's darker than, so I see it when it comes across. Cool. Yeah, happy with the legs, happy with that. I'm just gonna do a bit on the back of the arm here, not so much a tricep as just sort of highlight the elbow, just a little bit, and just a little bit on the beginning of the try. Same for this side. I've got kind of a square, well, a dog leg elbow, so I'm just going to do the top part of that because the other bit's flat. Cool. Yeah, it's looking good. So next bit, what to do next? Not doing the shirt yet. I wanted this guy to have a little bit of a lighter skin tone, so we're going to take some of the Cadian Flesh Tone, and I'm going to give that a shake and just mix a bit in to bring up this guy. I don't want all the members of the force to be the same sort of skin tone, so variety is the spice of life, so I'm told. So we're just gonna mix. I wouldn't say it's 50-50, it's probably 1/3. That's the tap of a cleaning brush. 1/3 flesh tone and 2/3 the Bugman's Glow. Cool, so I've got a thin layer on the brush. I'm going to start as we did before on the fingers because they're easy to repair. Yeah, it just brings it up enough. I don't want it to be ridiculously light in comparison. Now all I'm doing is not so much feathering as just a very small area highlight. So a thin line up here. I talked about the knee, so this time it's literally just going to be the knee joint. Same on this one. Then the bone, leave a gap and just run a feather up and down. This is me just touching for a couple of mil. I'm only going to do a small amount there because that's actually going to be pretty dark. back of the calf. Are we in shot? The legs are in shot. And that was the main thing that we're doing here. So I want to make sure we're definitely in shot, which we are. Where the calf muscle sort of folds out a little bit up towards the knee, down towards the Achilles. Do the Achilles, fatten that out a little bit because that'll catch light. Put the opposite side. I'm just going to sweep a little bit down, take the edge off that. There we go. This side, I want a bit more on the brush is what I want. Take off the excess. Do a pull on that side. Come back across and a pull on that side. And then feather it in a little. Down to the heel. A little more on this one actually. Yeah, happy with that. So I've done the front, done that, done the forearm. Tailbows. It's the point of the elbow and a little bit going up. This time just the point on this one. Cool. Now back to the head. So start with the, it's not the right position. Start with the nose, the brow, one side. Seasickness time. One day I'm going to squeeze that and it's just going to pop the miniature out and I'm going to have to start again because I ruined it. Again, we'll do some unusual hand contortion. I'm going to change the angle a little bit. There we go. Cool. So yeah, it's a much lighter skin tone this time in comparison to the last miniature. Cool. I find the forearm still a little too dark. So I'm going to widen that just a little bit. Same on this side. Just going to follow the hand and break it off a little bit at the back. Go a little bit further out. Pick out the individual striations of the fingers. Just going to feather in the beginning of the bend of the fingers. Cool. So happy with the skin tone. It is different to the last guy. I'll bring him into shot so we can see. Not by a huge amount. No, I've got him. Oh no. Yeah, it is different. That's good, because I only want it to be reasonably subtle. Cool. So, is it time? It's time for the white. That's what it's time for. So, bit of white scar. And we'll do the highlight on the gun that we talked about. So again, another layer paint. And we're looking at using this on the gun assembly. This is the final sort of highlight I'll do on that. This will hopefully just make it pop a little more. Just a little bit. This is a little sci-fi, which is what I said last time. It does kind of help with the contours though. Again, we're coming back to gaming room lighting. Visibility of certain parts of the miniature are going to be not necessarily key, but nice to have. And he says, holding his breath. Just run out just at the wrong time of paint on the brush. So I'm going to come back at it from the other side. So I want a horizontal one above the breech, below the breech even. Yep, and above the breech. Running up the weapon system. Top of the magazine is going to be what you'd expect. One of the back side will be quite a highlight. Smaller one on the center line that's got the, it's like a textured mag, you know, like you'd expect. So gently, gently. There we go, and I want texture on the bottom, just enough to pick it out. Cool. Let's not forget the actual mag that's fitted, because that would be silly. Oh. There we go. Trigger guard. Back corner. That's that side. This side's a bit more straightforward. There's a lot less to do. Do a vertical. Top of the barrel. Top of the housing. The housing. And then I need to get in the center here. Is this even in shot? Wait for a moment. It's kinda... Now it's in shot. There we go. So looking at it now, a lot of it dulls down straight away almost. So go back in. And is there anywhere I want to tidy up? You know what? Just a little bit in the center. I was about to say no, but that one doesn't go quite far enough for me. There we go. And there should be a vertical here. There. Hopefully that's maybe view on the camera. So what it does do is just gives a almost like a shine for the gun assembly. It just allows you to actually see it. It's not just lost as a black. So next is just another little bit on the traps just to touch up I've just seen, which is inside here. There we go. I'm just going to get the excess off the strap as well. Cool. I need to highlight that strap actually. I'm going to keep it fairly simple. The Shabtu bone I've been doing the repairs with. I'm just going to put some of that onto here. I'll probably use it on the guard as well. Do a quick blade run. Take off the excess. Wow, that dried quick. Back to the brown to tidy that up. I suppose, like I say, you're always going to make small errors. You got a choice. You can repair them at the time, or you can forget them. That's pretty much my two options. And you find them all at the end when you're doing your last look around. I repair some at the time. I don't repair them all at the time. Cool. So I've got the strap highlighted. I've done a little bit on that side. I need to do a little bit on the opposite side. See if it'll hold. There we go. I don't want the highlight to be quite so in your face here, so I'm just going to dull it down. So all I've done here is just done another really thin layer of the brown over that to bring the highlight back down a bit. Cool, so I'm definitely going to have to do the flip-flops at this point. Before I move on, I need a green for the highlight of them. I don't know what colour to use for that. I've got some really strong greens, but do I really want to take it to Marty level? Yeah. In fact, one of the guy's shirts, I'm pretty sure, has this and another colour on it from the selection that Jim's done for me. Oh, Jim's been working hard, look. He's just finished the M1025 HMMWV counters for Somali tomorrow. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully some of you guys will be watching. I'm sure Jim will put up all the timings and everything soon, if not already. I'm going to use this one because it's quite a dull green, but it is light enough to give it a highlight. And I'm literally just going to take a small amount because I'm looking to do light spots. The good thing is if I screw it up, it's on a flip-flop. Obviously the most important part of the model, sorry, getting mixed up. I'm just going to run that there. Oh wow, straight into a screw up. Balls. Quick repair, back in. Nice. You can tell I'm not talking much because I've already screwed it up once. There we go. It's probably the quietest I've been for the whole feed. It was much easier the first time when I didn't have anything to ruin. Let's get some striations underneath. But it got to have your textured flip-flop bottom. Flip-flops, I'm happy with. Everybody loves a flip-flop. How are we doing? Oh, 8 minutes. Well, 8-ish minutes. What have I got left to do? Oh, the whole shirt. That's done. What I am going to quickly do is just tidy this area around the feet just a little so I can make sure I didn't miss any. I've just used a bit of the Shabti bone from earlier. I'm not looking to flatten it all out because it's going to get cut off anyway. G's going to put them onto acrylic. I think we're going with clear acrylics for these. There's some talk about how to label them actually on the recent podcast update even. I need to get all my terminology sorted obviously. Cool. Right, so I've got the pouch to do and the shirt to do. Yeah. Ah, I missed the back of the this is a sling here. That big fat set, I was like, has it got a stock on that? Right, AK. Nope. And then I thought, is it the shirt? No. It's neither. It's the strap. The sling for his weapon system. Let that dry and I'll give it a quick highlight. Green. We're going with a green. Well, some of this going to be bright enough, so no, definitely not that. That's too dark. You know what? I'm not going to go with the green. I'm actually just going to bring it up with the greys, as if it's the black gear that you can get rather than a military one. So I'm going to fan out the grey there, at the top, down the blade edge. So I'm just looking to give it a bit of texture almost by highlighting up some areas in the grey. I'm going to mix in the white a little bit that I've got, and then do another quick highlight with a lighter grey based off the original. So like I say, literally just chucked in a bit of white. So this one should show lighter down the edge. I'm just pushing it around a bit so it's got some ripples in it in the pouch, because it's definitely, it could be tape, it could be a form of pouch. It's difficult to, I'd imagine it's tape, but it's pretty bulky. So, and then a little bit lighter just for a final edge highlight in certain areas. Try and keep it in shot. So I'm literally just going to do the corner and the start of the striations on each side. Cool. In the middle. So it's got some texture now. Easy. Then, right, the big moment. I'm going to bring the white back, because where I did the repairs before on this shirt is quite dark, but this point down here is going to be a light spot because it's at the edge of the shirt, and these I believe will stay dark, but I'm just going to bring them up with a very thin layer. So the shabby bond will still shine through a little bit, but it won't be as pronounced as it currently is, because these are all just repairs at the end of the day. Sweet. Right. I'll let that dry for a second, and hopefully we're on to the final phase, he says. This is where I need to find the paint. There we go. So, looking at a Griffin Charger Grey, and looking at the pot, this is dark as hell. I hope this is the right one that I've chosen. When I painted it on my test palette, which you may have seen if you watched the last one, I have my contrast German heads. Let's see if this comes into shot okay. This is where the delay kills me now. Hey, it's in shot. This one here is what it's supposed to look like. I was going to go for this one here. It's very thin and light, but I think I can bring this one up with a bit of white anyway. And I want enough in the recesses to give me that shadow. If in doubt, paint some heads. At least you know what it looks like then. Or you think you do. Now it's just about if I put it back in the right order. I've got them in alphabetical order. I'm very Dawn about that. She has a thing for getting stuff in the correct orders. Right, do I go big early or do I go small early? Big or small? Let's go small because it doesn't look like the right colour. I am sure it is the right colour. Just not 100% sure. So I'm just going to put some in this crease. Yeah, that's the right colour. So now I'll switch out, get my medium brush, so a little bit thicker. Tastes like chicken. And we'll load it up and get it on. So this is the bit I've been dreading because it was a lighter colour, but luckily the other one's even more obvious in how light it is in comparison to this. Hard part is getting contrasts to run an edge, because it wants to lift in such a nice way, but at the same time when you get into corners it's fine, you just push and fill it. But the edge of the shirt and the underside of the shirt is a bit more finicky, shall we say. Cool. Setting okay. Not too much there. Let's just pull that before it dries. So I'm concentrating on trying to pull it around now before it dries, the mistake I made earlier. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, well, I need a slap. Coming together. Let's run the edge of the shirt into the armpit. Cool. Again, I'm trying to keep it up down where I can. It's not always the way. Even if you tidy it up after so that it ends up being in that sort of motion, that can help with a lot of the problems. Let's get it off his shoulder here, because that should be a light spot, so it wouldn't be very heavy there. It's got a lovely button there, look. I wonder if I should do a gold button. Nah, I'll leave the bling to Marty when he gets his AK on. I don't know. I think people will be cringing. I'd be cringing a little bit. It's got to run it past G, or it could just be the first casualty every time if it's not a popular colour scheme. Just going to gently push this in, so I don't have to change down brush size quite yet. And then there's no chance I'm doing that one without the smaller brush. So I'll quickly give this one a clean. Drag on the sponge. How are we doing for time? Oh, close to, well, it is right on the time. But we're close to finished, so we're not doing too bad. Nice one, Jim. Let's just push this in here. So I'm going to darken this one down because it's in shadow. Push into the recess. Pulled from here before, but I want the crease to be a bit darker. That one's fine. I want under here to be darker. That's what I really like. Again, you can just go back and layer them out, and it's so malleable. You can, so you can keep saying the same things on these videos. Shadow at the top, just around where the head covering comes down. That's sort of darker there. Got a nice light spot there, so I want to put a riffle underneath. It's a bit too much there. I want to pull that away. This one's a bit thick, so I'm just going to pull that away and rebuild that one. Just wanted a more transparent version. There we go. A bit more under the arm. Same here. Let's darken that one down a bit. Just bring this tone down a bit. Cool. Top of the shoulder where the headdress meets. I just want that clear definition between the two where you get the dark transition. So I'm just going to pull that like a straight line around the edge first. Now I'm just going to feather it out just a touch so it's not a flat line. Take some of the excess off. Cool. I want that button popping. I want that button popping. It's a nice focal point. So I'm just going to drag the edge. Get some excess on there. Put a bit of shadow under. Just dab it under so it darkens it down. Make sure I've got the crease at the top. There we go. So it's quite light in here, even though there's lots of shadow, and that's because of the way it's raised. So I'll dab another section in there. The underside of his arm on this side. It's nice in the deeper recess, but just needs to come out just a little bit further, which I'm happy with there. And we're getting there slowly but surely. I wonder if G logs every single minute. And if so, do I get in trouble for only painting like one model in 2 hours? I'm really tuned into our time frame. On the edge of the sleeve here, way too much. As you can see, my actual brush is fattened out. Just take off the excess. Get rid of this really light spot. Need to run the underside of the sleeve without getting too much on the skin. Are we still in shot? We will find out in a second. Same for this side. And there's a white spot in there. So there's a white spot here underneath the mag, the second mag should I say. There's a white spot above it underneath his knuckles. So I'm just going to dump some in there. And then there's just the smallest white spot between the mag and the strap. Cool. So he's got a dirty sort of off-white green. It is a grey. Just pull a little bit of the excess off there. Move that around a bit into there. I'm going to double up on that crease again now. It's dried enough. So I've got You can see the texture line here running across, and I'm just trying to get that to emphasize with the shadow everywhere else. So I'll deepen it just above, deepen it underneath, and hopefully that'll make it look a bit more interesting. But I think all I've got left, you can hear my, that's probably somebody telling me I'm going too long. Get off. Feather that out just a little bit. Cool. So I just need to get that edge on the shirt here is just a little too, yeah, load up too much. Done. Shadow on the underside. Cool. I think I am there. Cheers for popping in, Jim. Much appreciated. Thanks for having me back. Always nice to have somebody on the chat. Right, I think we're there today, guys. So again, we took a model from, no, we've still got a small gap. Literally where we just touched up in there, but there's enough material in. Is there to push it? Not quite. So I just need a little bit more of a dab. But yeah, we're pretty much there now. Today we took another one from sort of base colour to tabletop. Hope you got some use out of it. If there's anything you want me to prattle less about talking wise and talk more about, feel free to hit me up with some comments, and we'll go from there. Really, it's been a pleasure. We appreciate everybody coming on, all the support that we get, and we hope you're really enjoying this project. It's quite a big project for us, as you can imagine, as a team. We've got different nationalities doing different things, and they'll be shipped around the world. So it's a real, love project. This one, definitely. So one last look over the model. So you've got a little bit, 2 white spots up there. I've got excess grey in here. Just going to move it up there. And we're there. Gun barrel straight. Cool. So guy number 2 is done for me. I'll take some photos, put them onto the forum and our media sites. Really hope that you've enjoyed today. I know I have. I appreciate you guys coming on, and you never know. I'm not catching up with the with the US team, but I'm trying my best. So I'll keep chipping away at this. This guy's finished. That's 2 down, 11 to go, and I look forward to seeing you another painting session soon. So hit up the channel, keep up to date with the podcasts, and I'll leave you with a moment from our sponsors, Black Site Studios. Like I say, without them, we won't be able to do half the content that we do. So have a great weekend, guys. Take care of yourselves. Leave any comments on anything you want to have a chat about, and hopefully I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Are you looking to become a Tier 1 operator in the gaming world? Elevate your games with Black Site Studio Terrain.